So the walk cycle, though I still have a lot more work to do to angle all those features in these different ways, you can see how it's possible. And the reason I have to build it up with individual assets for the different legs is because in the walk cycle, legs overlap each other and the silhouette changes dramatically in the legs. But for other movements of my creature that I have in my storyboard that are just like shaking the creature's head, I can use a different technique. And the technique I want to show you is called puppet warp. So I already have an asset. So I'll actually call this one walk 1. That's the asset I built from all those different layers. Okay, and maybe because that's a finished walk cycle, I'll make that orange. But now I want to play with the head, and maybe especially the head copy here. And I'm going to isolate it so that the body is not showing, so that the legs are not showing. I want the lower jaw closed. And I want just the head as an asset, and I'm going to hold down Option and say Layer. I have to be on one of the layers that's visible, the one at the top. Layer Merge Visible, and it will compress that all into one, and I'm going to call this Head Shaking Asset. Okay. Now, because the mouth is already closed on this, I'm going to go to my original eye layer, duplicate it. Didn't do what I thought it would. So Command J, give me eye copy 2, that's what I wanted. I'm going to move that above, and this is going to be my shaking eye asset. And then the same thing for the jaw. I'm going to duplicate it. It'll be my second copy. And I'm going to make it my shaking lower jaw copy, so I can have that open if I need to. And basically, I want to have 2 head shaking assets maybe. One with the eyes squinted, and one with the mouth closed, and the opposite, one with them both open. Okay, turn off everything else. Now I'm going to work with that asset, and then I'm going to start showing you how I would animate it using Puppet Warp. Because you've seen that warping could get my legs in the right position, but the head shaking is maybe a little bit more complicated. So first I'll make a duplicate, a copy of the head shaking asset. And now I go to Edit, Puppet Warp. And it will make a wireframe, a big chicken mesh over the head. And I want to anchor certain things. Certain things are not flexible, like antlers, bone. So the points of my antlers I need to anchor. And my vertebrae, the neck and the spine, I want to anchor. And the nose and the top of the head. But all of the flowers and stuff are very flexible. So now if I want to tip, let's see, tip the head, I can just take these pivot points and move them slightly, and everything else will move with them. And that way I can just make a subtle movement to the head. I can tip the nose forward a little bit. And now I have a change. You see? Just a subtle movement of the head to start shaking it. Then I can make a duplicate of that. And this time I'm going to add in the eye that's open, and I'm going to puppet warp it again. So edit, puppet warp. And this time, I'm going to hinge the back of the flowers and at the head, and let the flowers shake a little, kind of as a reaction to that movement. So rustling. And it's nice to have the layer behind showing, so you're doing this in movements that make sense. Now that eye, you see how that eye also needs to move with it. So then I'm going to move that open eye down a little. And I'll make this a new frame. So by selecting both, and now I'm just going to merge them, Command E. So now I have a 3-frame animation from this to this to this using Puppet Warp. And on any one of those, I can add the rest of the body to flesh it out. So I'm going to keep working with my walk cycle, and then once I have the legs going the way I want, I can add that head movement in when I want it to go with the walking. So building character assets with Puppet Warp.